Hi everyone, welcome to the Farmington Hills Salesforce Developer Group. So we are going to do our again we are going to do one of online session for Salesforce Apex Hour. So today agenda is the Lightning component framework, and we are lucky that we have a Mohit Srivastava. He's a Salesforce MVP with us to give some knowledge on this particular topic. So. So let me tell you about myself, who I am. So my name is Amit Chaudhary. So I am a co-organizer of the Farmington Salesforce Developer Group, and I am also active on the Salesforce Developer community with more than 1,000 of best answer and all. So apart from that, I have also some Apex product hosted on Apex. So one of the name is the code coverage report. Apart from that, I'm also an active blogger on say amitsalesforce.blog.spot.in. So this is something about me. So today we have a guest. So our speaker for the today is the Mohit Srivastava. So let me tell you a few lines about him. So Mohit Srivastava is a Salesforce MVP and he's working in the core science. So I hope that will better, Mohit. You can tell you about yourself. So I'm going to make
Yeah.
you presenter. So you can share your screen and you can continue. Let me
All
make you
right.
presenter.
Mm-hmm. All right. Show my screen. All right. Can you guys start seeing my screen? Amit, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm able to see.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much for the confirmation, and thanks, Amit, for the introduction. So let me actually introduce myself. My name is Mohit Srivastava. I'm a Salesforce MVP. Previously, I worked for a couple of top four consulting firms. Currently, I work for sort of a startup called Code Science. I'm an engineer there, and I'm a Stack Exchange active user. So if you are on salesforce.stackexchange.com, you would have seen some answers from me. Apart from that, I hold multiple Salesforce certifications and been following Lightning quite a while now, like almost for 2 years. I've been following Lightning component framework and also been actively building some components, for both for system integrators as well as for App Exchange applications. So that's an introduction about me. So this session, as you said, right, I mean, it's all about talking Lightning components. So there are some prerequisites for this session, and I just want to make sure that, we are all on the same page here with respect to, what are the prerequisites or what is this that we gain out of this session, right? So I assume that, to some level our participants here are familiar with JavaScript. Now, don't worry if you're not an expert or, if you have only knowledge of few APIs in JavaScript, but the core of Lightning framework depends on JavaScript, and we're going to talk about how it is different from Visualforce, and how we can actually sharpen our skills, what are additional work that we'll need to do in terms of uh, getting prepared ourselves for this transition that will happen in coming years, where we'll see more of UI being developed using Lightning components instead of traditional Visualforce stuff. Also, I assume that we have understanding of this DOM model. So, there are articles on Mozilla Developer Network, and you can go through them if you're not familiar with the DOM model. Because in Visualforce, you need not be familiar with that, unless and until you are working with the JavaScript inside Visualforce code. So, familiarity helps, and familiarity with CSS, like, again, you need not be a super expert. We have this Lightning design system where you can directly use those CSS and stuff. So, but I assume, for this session at least, that our participants are familiar with a little bit of CSS and have exposure to that. And I obviously assume that, everyone here knows at least a little bit about Apex and a little bit about Visualforce page, and in their current working environment, they actually work on these things, and they are focusing more or curious about what is coming with the Lightning component framework. So this session is going to cover the gap, if you are not being so much involved in Lightning component development perspective. Let's actually start. So So the core idea behind, the Visualforce pages, and there is actually a architectural difference between Visualforce page and the way this Lightning component application works. So in the Visualforce, right, if you had seen, we had this collection of links or tabs where you click, and what happens is you would have seen that your whole page actually reloads, right? So which means what is happening is, a server is actually rendering, the HTML from the fresh, there's no AJAX involved. But if you have used like remoting actions or action function, you would have easily observed that, you're able to actually maintain that view state and, talk back and forth between your Salesforce Apex layer and your page without actually refreshing the page. But as soon as you have more requirements and more action functions, your page starts becoming complex. And and because this Visualforce markups like page block table or page block sections or data table, whatever we have used previously, they all involve some sort of a view state. So view state is basically a set of data or form element that goes between browser and the Salesforce server. So as soon as that starts becoming heavier, you will see there are performance issues, and with the latest addition into the JavaScript, right, the modern web has been actually emerging very quickly. The current standards of JavaScript is ES6. If you are following the JavaScript very closely, so all these, and there are component-based frameworks that came up like React and Angular that, that made it look very easier to actually build applications and responsive applications, So we used to call them single page applications. So a SPA life cycle or a single page application is basically where you actually don't refresh the whole page. You first load everything at a shot, and then what you do from that point is just make, just update your data via the JSON payload between the server and the client. So even Lightning component is also based out of that sort of an idea where, for most part of the framework, you will see that you will load it once, and then you will see a bunch of different components on your page, that actually form a whole page. Like you will see a tree, and we'll talk about it with the demo of what is a Lightning component, what it takes to actually build a Lightning component. So basically, it's a single page application to most of the extent, and then you have this flexibility of actually dragging and dropping the components using the builders that Salesforce provide, and all the page will have a component-based model, right? So web components has been latest additions. I mean, it's been progressing very rapidly in open source development. What advantages the web components gives us is reusability, right? Like let's say you are building a drag and drop functionality, for file upload, right? Now you need that across many different applications, and you need not copy paste the code each time, right? I mean, you might want to create a component, or a library, and then basically just use that library or the component, and in terms of UI as well as the functionality, right? So if you have been familiar with object-oriented languages like Java or Scala, so you would have seen that we have all these bunch of import statements, in the begin to actually load a module, right? So this is also the same concept, in terms of web also, because even everything on the page can be a reusable thing. So why don't we actually just build a component and then you reuse it? So the web components is based off that idea. As you can see in this diagram, like, a web page can have like a component, like, from different namespaces. So let's consider App Exchange applications, right? So as a customer of Salesforce, I'll have ability to actually use applications, or the components from different vendors, and also have in-house components. So you can use and bundle all those things together to form a page. And that actually gives flexibility for the developers to go and build a lot of these components, for the Salesforce functionalities. The common functionalities, and host it on App Exchange. And then for an admin, it just becomes, a question of just getting that component and dragging and dropping on the UI. Um, so this kind of, gives a different approach altogether. Like previously, if you had to build a custom UI, you need a Visualforce developer to actually go through and build it for you. You still need Lightning developer for your organizations, if you're changing to Lightning components, but the idea here is actually to make use of, different component based architecture, and also at the same time make use of, a collaboration between different, app exchange vendors and things like that, and make it easier than that. So as you can see, a page can have like a button, a weather component, a map component inside it, a finance component, and all these components can be used across different pages, reusable across different UIs. So when I say page, not just app builder, right? In Salesforce now we have like communities builder, maybe it is used across communities, community builder, or, any other thing. All right. So let's actually just highlight some of the differences between Visualforce and Lightning components before we actually dig deeper into what it takes to build a Lightning component. So the problem with Visualforce is, like, many developers, or most of them, including me, I would say, did not realize this concept of, like, Visualforce components and templates to begin with. And we ended up writing like a monolithic code, meaning like 1,000-line code or a markup, which becomes like sort of very difficult to actually debug and trace it through. So you will have like 1,000 lines controller that's binding to like, 1,000 lines of Visualforce code for a bigger organization, making it extremely hard to debug and, maintain that. So that's been core problem. Lightning components actually solve those problems, because now what you will see is everything is componentized. So you just have to worry or debug that particular component. And it breaks your file into a bundle. We'll talk about what is a Lightning component bundle, and what it takes actually to build a bundle and assemble all these for an admin's perspective. Also, building spas, right, on Visualforce was possible, but you needed some external frameworks like Angular or React, etc., which kind of was tedious, because they don't have the baked-in ability to actually use Salesforce features, like, let's say, custom labels or internationalization or multi-currency or localizations and things like that. You have to actually go and implement them each time. So that sort of made it, I would say, like a difficulty for developers, because you'll have, it's more a lot of learning curve on the front end, and then tying up with what is missing, and there were a lot of gaps. While what Lightning component does is it actually covers those gaps, because it natively inbuilds, like, how do you call your Apex controllers or methods, and how do you actually take care of some of the functionalities that Salesforce provide at this point. So building SPA is a lot easier, and then we will see how these components can actually be loosely coupled, so that you can actually start doing a communication between these two components via something called as publish and subscribe model. Now this is very common in JavaScript, between the DOM using browser events, but we'll see the similar type of concept being used to actually communicate between two different components, and we call it as application events and component events. So we will we'll actually take a look at some of the examples here and understand at least the basics of it, so that you can actually go on your own and start looking or practicing more and getting more familiar with this component framework. So let me pause here, and for a sec I just want to check whether everyone is good. Amit, are you able to hear me well, and is it all good?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you properly. So couple of questions people are asking. So I'm just making the list of all the question, so that end of the session I will we can do the question and answer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's actually finish the whole talk, and probably by the time we finish the talk, maybe we would have covered some of them. So yeah, that's brilliant. We'll just go into the lot. So first of all, I mean, to build anything, right, you need tools, and tooling is an important part if you want to be successful in coding. I mean, you cannot do everything on developer console. Obviously, developer console is a nice utility to build it. So let's say developer console is a quick and a dirty way to actually get started, but it soon actually becomes very hard to manage everything using developer console. But you can obviously use developer console. It provides you a lot of abilities. to debug something, or to start putting together your own application. So if you go to file and start new, and then you'll see something called as lighting, application, component, interface, events, tokens. We'll talk about all these things, what these are. Then once you start building, you can so as the number of components get increased and things like that, it really becomes more clunky, or not that pleasant experience to actually go everything and build it in lighting components in developer console. But that is my take on it. Few people like developer console and building everything on developer console. I like something called as Force Code. Um, so Force Code was actually built by one of the engineers here at Code Science. So he used this Visual Studio Code editor and built his own sort of plugin to actually connect with force.com and do everything, like not just lighting components. It's a proper IDE to get all the metadata from your unmanaged package or through your package XML. So once you get that, you actually start saving that on Salesforce server. So it's easy to actually build applications on it.
Hello, Mohit.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Mohit, your voice is not coming. Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Amit, I can hear you.
Mohit, there is some issue on your machine. We are not able to hear you.
Yeah, Amit, this Sudipto here. We are not here, Mohit's voice here.
Yeah. I'm just connecting with the Mohit. Just give it a few minutes. Let me connect with Mohit.
Sure, sure.
Mohit. Sorry guys, there was some issue on Mohit internet side, so he's just rejoining. So sorry for that. He is joining in a couple of minutes.
No problem, Amit.
Amit, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mohit, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think there is some problem with the internet connection, which was weird. Anyways, let's actually carry on our thing. So you can hear me, right? And can you see my screen as well?
Yeah, we can see your screen. You are on a Google right now, and we are able to hear your voice also.
All right, great. So yeah, sorry about that. Actually, it's a technical glitch. So we were talking about just to recap what we were talking about, as we covered all these basics of different IDEs and different platforms, and then what are the supported IDEs, and now we are actually looking into how do we actually go and build a component. right? So if you look at this, so this is an app that I've built, just to demonstrate some of the functionalities of what is a component, what is a lightning component, and what are the different, applications that we can build using this, and how do we actually connect to Apex layer? How can Apex layer talk to an external system like YouTube? So this app just does nothing. I mean, what it does is you actually, search for something on a YouTube and actually makes a call out to YouTube channel. And then based on that, it actually displays the result. So if I type something here like Google or, Lightning components, it basically just displays a bunch of result set from a YouTube. It connects Salesforce with the YouTube. And based on that, it actually displays the result. So as you can see, it's a completely working app. And we're going to actually uncover or crack the code of, okay, how did I build this and what it takes to actually build this page in Lightning. So first thing first is, to test anything in Lightning, you will have to create an app. Okay, so an app, for example, this is a classic example of an app. So YouTube search app. So this is what you see in the URL. So to open that, what you will do is you will say, your domain name /c, and if this is actually the namespace, by default, if your org does not have a namespace, it is C. But if you're building an App Exchange application, it will have a namespace, So this is the namespace actually. And then this particular thing like YouTube search app.app is nothing but the application name here. And this application is made up of two different components which are loosely coupled. So the first one is like a search widget component. So search widget component is basically this one. And this is the markup that I'll explain you what it takes to actually build a markup. And then what are the other elements in that bundle. So search component is one, and then we have this YouTube search component, which again comprises of another component called YouTube result card. So an app is basically to test your application, how your application is working, or to put a component inside that .app file, and you start actually just testing it or, playing around with that. But what exactly, a component is a bunch of markups. So let's actually switch and see what is an example of a component. So search widget itself is a component, so which is nothing but this top section that you see, right? So what what it takes to actually build a component is you actually declare a component with Aura component, and then you will see this bunch of interfaces here at the top, like which are implementing available for all page types, available for record home, record ID, available for all page type, and then we have this access. So what is this different interfaces is, okay, where do you want to actually use this component, right? For example, available for record home means this particular component can be dragged and dropped in the record home. That's what it means. Available for all page types means it is available for all the builder pages in your application, like in Salesforce Lightning experience. Force community interfaces, okay, this particular bundle is now also available in your communities. If a community is built using a template-based model like an Nephili, or there are different templates that Salesforce offers, we call it a Lightning Bolt now. So when you are building using Lightning Bolt, this component becomes available for you in that interface as well. So that's what implementing. And then you have access global. So what does access global mean is, so you generally don't put access global, but when you put access global, this means this component, when packaged as an App Exchange application, this becomes actually available for other organizations as well, just like a global class, right? So if you have a public class, it's only available in your org, but when you package and you want your subscribers to actually use the class and implement it, you make it global. So to make it available on the app builder also, you'll have to specify this access equals global and this interfaces. So as you can see, the markup is pretty much copied and pasted from Lightning, as design system. So if you are not familiar with Lightning design system, I would suggest you to go to this website called Lightning Design System. So if you go to the Lightning Design System, you can actually see, okay, what are the different components available. So in my case, I think it was global header that I just copy pasted it. Let's see. Yeah, so it was this global header. I just copy pasted this code. And I love copy pasting to make my life simpler. So it's copy pasted but then modified. And one important thing that you will see is for all these SVGs, I'm using something called as lightning icon. So lightning icon is basically Salesforce version of icon for SVGs. So wherever you will see SVG, you will have to actually go replace it with lightning icon, and then you have this icon name where you say, okay, what is this icon type and what is the icon? So you will see a bunch of lightning icons available for you. So let's actually quickly search here. So you can go to Google and say lightning icons, and yeah, Salesforce lightning icons. Salesforce. So if you go to the icon, so you see here we have this action icon. So if you want to put this icon, you will say action : and then you will say add contact. So in my case, I was using something from, what was that? Something from utility. So utility is this one. So I was using one icon called utility. I'm jumping all over the place. Just give me a sec. Yeah, so I was using a utility and then search. So let's do a search here. So search. Yeah, so I was using this one, in my search here. So that's how I actually implemented this one, that gives me a sort of a search thing. So it's actually not hard to just copy paste them and then replace it. So a component to me is basically a HTML tag. But the interesting thing to note here is, so let's go to this component, YouTube search. So you will start seeing something called as aura attribute, something like this. And then you'll see handlers, which we're going to talk about. What are these? So what's an aura attribute basically? So what an aura attribute does is it creates a memory sort of a thing, or a variable declaration, just like how you do it in Java, or a .NET or a Salesforce Apex. You create, or a JavaScript variable, right? You say var and put the the variable name. So it is interesting, like the way the Lightning component works is you declare your variables or binders of the data directly on the markup. So as you can see here, you declared an aura attribute called data, and then I can use that data. So this data is of type YouTube data parser. Now you might ask, okay, what is this YouTube data parser? Like, what data type is it? Like, this makes sense. Search string, it's of type string, and I have default set here. But what is this data type is something that seems like a custom. So yeah, so one of the powerful features of like attribute declaration is you can actually declare a custom Apex type as a data type. So I've created this custom data class called YouTube data parser. So this parser is basically a custom class for me here that's actually holding up all the responses that I get from my Apex class. We'll talk about this Apex a bit more when we actually go and proceed. So this can be actually declared here as an attribute that you see. So this is the result set actually. So the data is the result set that I'm getting. And then as you can also see, an attribute can also become a property. Like in HTML tag, we have our own attributes, right? Like for example, if you're using button, you have label as an attribute, right? So YouTube result card is another component here. And as you can see, I would have declared an attribute called item, which is of type this, which is again a custom class. Now, that can also be used from the parent component to actually pass in the result. So as you can see, I can just loop over this. The aura iteration is equivalent of like ng repeat in Angular or Apex repeat, when you want to repeat a HTML element. So in this case, we have this single card, right? Let's actually go to this. So if you look at this, we have these cards. So we are actually repeating these cards over and over again. So we just write markup for one of the cards and the data binder, and then we just repeat it with this. So in a nutshell, let me actually revise it for you. What is a component? So component is basically a HTML tag with some additional tag structure, and that might be like, or an attribute which is like a variable to hold the data, and which is also used as a merge field or as a binder to the data. And then we have this handlers. I'll explain you what is this handler all about. So if you go here, handler is basically, so what is an init is, so when the page is starting, right, what is the function that I want to execute. So this is similar to if you have worked in jQuery, there's like, on the download, you put document.ready and you call a bunch of anonymous functions, right? Or in Salesforce Apex, in Visualforce, when you actually start writing, action tag or constructor, that is what it executes first, right? So this is, init is also like event. What it tells Lightning components is, so it says that, okay, go and execute this action. Now, where is this action defined, right? So you see that we also link this component with a YouTube controller, right? So we have this controller. So in Salesforce also, you link your Visualforce with an Apex controller, right? So similarly here, sorry, I hear a background noise. Can someone go on mute?
Yeah, let me do everyone mute.
Yeah, sorry about that, Amit. It just distracts me to, concentrate here. All right, this is much better. Thank you. So as you can see, a component basically has a controller. So the controller here is YouTube search, which is my Apex controller. So what you will see is any Apex class can be actually binded to that component by that keyword called controller. And then what we can do is we can actually annotate a method with aura enabled. So this is the method. So once a method becomes annotated with aura enabled, we can actually call that method. So we'll see this flow. So what happens here is, as I said, the first action that happens when the page load is an init call. So the init actually calls the action called get results, which is nothing but a JavaScript controller code. So this is where it becomes a little bit different from Visualforce. In Visualforce, you directly call your controller class in the Apex, but here we actually have a JS and a helper file. So every component bundle will have its own like a JavaScript file, which is called helper, and a controller file. So a controller file basically, so in this case, I'm calling this get result. So action equals c.getResult, meaning it will call this get result. And this is launcher, like it's just a helper. You don't write your business logic here. You just want to keep it for your dispatch thing. So you actually delegate now everything to this helper. So every component will have a helper. So in this helper, what we do is we call helper.function. So here our function is search YouTube. So we call this component event. Now here we actually start doing this action. So our action here is to actually start this, call this Apex method. So your helper actually calls the Apex method. So just to summarize, what we do is init is the first thing that happens on the page, and then init actually calls the JavaScript controller.js function, and that JavaScript controller can actually do some logic, but we don't recommend to actually use business logic there, and instead use it in the helper. And helper actually starts calling your Apex controller here. So as you can see, search YouTube is basically the helper class function that actually calls c.search. Now c.search is nothing but my Apex search method here. As you can see, it takes a parameter called search string. So as you can see in my helper, I would have passed a parameter here called set param. So set params basically sets your parameter. So we set this parameter, and then there is a callback actually. So we set this callback. So what is a callback in JavaScript is, if you are not familiar, it is something like this. So in JavaScript, you cannot guarantee that your code execution happens just by lines. Like as you can see here, as I can see here, okay, so after this search key, I want this console.log to execute, right? After like setting the param, I want this to be executed. But it need not happen like that, because you can start a new thread kind of a thing using a callback. So we start this thread, and then we call this function which says that, okay, when you get the response from the server, like, try to call the server and, just wait for the responses from the server. And once you get the response from the server, you actually, what you start doing is once you get the response, then actually you start, further line. So this is what set callback does. We say that, okay, we pass this function, which is nothing but the action or this function. And then when we get the response back, we set the state, and then we do whatever we want to do with the response. So in this case, we are actually setting up, if you look at, we are setting up this attribute. So one thing you will notice is, just like getters and setters in Salesforce, where we binded the variable, right, the controller variable with the Visualforce markup, just like that in Lightning components, we bind, the variable via, or the attribute basically. So the attributes are something that I showed you already here, like these attributes. So this binded, let's say I want to actually inject value into this. So the only way to do is use the set function in your controller or helper. So that's what we are doing here. Like, in the helper, we go and set the value. So let me actually switch back to the slides and just revise some of the things that we are covering here. So as you can see, we will have this something called as handlers. So handlers are basically like event handling. So we have this init event, which is a system handler. So there are two different types of events. One is system events, and then we have this framework events that we can define, like application or component event. We'll discuss that more in detail now. And also we have this browser event. So I'll show you how you can actually use browser events as well. And that's what you will see in the definition file. Like when I go to my helper, I say component event and the helper. This is what, my JavaScript function has the parameters. So component is your actual component, which holds the true DOM basically. So you can actually get a value out of it, like find an ID and see what value it has. Component is based for that. Then we have this event. Now this event can be a browser event, or it can be a framework event or a system event. And then we handle that event actually. So I'll show you the example of publish subscribe model that I was talking about in a while. So Amit, are we still there? Like, I'm skeptical about my internet connection. Can you guys hear me up?
Yeah, we are able to hear you, Mohit. We are good.
All
Yes,
right,
Mohit, we can hear you.
All right, thank you so much for the confirmation. So yeah, so attributes are objects or variables, which sounds weird because none of the languages like HTML actually declares the variable in the markup, but Lightning component does it. I mean, that's the beauty of it, that you can declare your variables or an attribute, on the using a declarative markup like HTML syntax, which is weird to me still. Anyways, so and then we have this expression. So you can actually write expressions, like for example, when the like ID is null, you want to like it, unlike it, things like that. You can write expressions. Expression can be like unary operators, or other operators that you might know. Like it can be a expression logic, like AND function, OR function. It's similar to Visualforce expression basically. So if you go to the Lightning component developer guide, you can explore more about that. And styling a Lightning component, this is something that I did not talk about. So typically you can, styling is very simple in Lightning components. What you can do is you can use, so when you actually declare your app, and if you extend it with this interface, extension, sorry, this is not interface, it's an extension. If you are familiar with object-oriented concept, like, you extend something, right? You extend a base class. So similarly, we extend this with for SLDS, so that automatically gives you the SLDS styling, right? So, or if you still are interested in overriding the styles, every component you will see will have a .css file. So here maybe I don't have one, but you can actually create a bundle with .css and declare your class name, like here, maybe declare something else here, and and then you actually write your CSS for that. So let's see. So for example, so this is the component, right? So every component will have a CSS file. So you can actually give the class name and then implement that class name with this keyword in the CSS file. You say dot this and then do it. So the syntax for this is here actually. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, if you look at this, so this is how we do it. So we say this dot, and then we say, okay, background color, whatever we want for the whole page. And this is the class name actually, white. So there are two versions of it. As you can see, we actually use dot. One is like a space and dot, and that's the class name, and the other is without the space. Now the difference between these two is like without the space, meaning, it takes the precedence. It just overrides everything, just like important tag in CSS. Let me see if I find this example. Unfortunately, I'm using Salesforce design system, so let me see if there is any example in the document actually. So this is the example that I was talking about. So if you look at this, what happens is, so background color gray, right? So this means it's for all the components. So this component, everything becomes gray, as you can see. It's all gray. But let's say you want to override it, for example, this white section or this section, hello HTML, I want to just override it, override this with a class called white. So overriding is very, very, very simple. So what you do to override is don't put a space. Just use this and without a space. So if you don't want to override and still keep the parent structure with you, then you just put the space here. So as you can see, the background is gray, but at the same time, it has also overlaid a style on top of that. So it keeps the this, I mean the parent, that is this, and the CSS of that, and also the CSS you defined here. So ideally, what I would suggest is to use design systems and then customize it. So what you can do is you can override with this word, and let's say you want to actually change some of the styles, like you want to change the style. So you can actually say, okay, let's say I want to change a markups color or something. Then you can put a space and put a class name here, and then use that class name as this in the CSS, this space, that class name, and then put your CSS styling there. That's how we handle CSS actually. All right, so next actually events. So this is the most difficult, or like people don't understand it because we never had it in Visualforce. There was no concept of events. But if you are from JavaScript world, it's pretty easy actually to understand events. So let me actually go to my app here. So as you can see, what is an event is, so event can be a browser event, right? For example, when I'm clicking my keyboard keys, when I'm pressing it, releasing it, it's an event that actually flows in the browser. Or let's say I'm doing some mouse event, like on click, or on dragging something. That's an event. That's a browser event, right? And once the browser event happens, then you can listen that and do some logic based on that. Lightning component also has inbuilt, like if you use pure native Lightning component, structures, you will see everywhere that they will have their own events. A good example for that is like a UI text. And as you can see, I have this key up event that I'm using, right? So on that event, I can call a JavaScript function. So that's one type of event. And system events are inbuilt. Like for example, the handler that I was talking about, right? In this search component, I was talking about this handler, where the event, where the init, right? Now, where did it come from? It's a system event. It's something that the system or the framework has defined. But you can also define custom events. So for example, the custom events can be two different types: application events and component events. So the way these flow is different. So application events are basically, so an event which can flow between different, it can flow in an entire application, and that's what we are using here. You must be careful to use that because that comes with a cost. Like they are not that performant. Wherever possible, you can actually use component event. So what happens in component event is basically, so it flows between the parent and the child. The component event actually flows between the parent and child. In fact, if you read through the documentation, it will be more clear, but I'll show you an example. So to actually help you, more visualize this, because this is, so I've used something called as Lightning Inspector. Lightning Inspector is basically a plugin, a Chrome plugin that helps you visualize a lot of things. I'm going to talk about that a bit. Let me actually comment out the debugger because that's gonna, so this debugger I'm commenting out in my code because I don't want pause to happen. So if you are from JavaScript world, you are very much familiar with what is a debugger. So a debugger is basically, it helps you to actually debug or step through each line of your code and see the value. Anyway, so as you can see, this whole component tree, we can see them. And there are some, cool commands that you can do. For example, if I want to find out, okay, what is the DOM element of this? So it's pretty simple here. What we do is we actually hover over this and then go to the console, and maybe I can do something like or a temp get element. So this gives me, the entire markup for this particular widget. So you can look at your HTML, your CSS, and things like that. It's pretty simple. So for example, if I want to inspect YouTube search, I'll go here and just execute the same command that gives me all the elements of it, that's been rendered on the browser. It's pretty cool actually. Anyway, so what I was talking about was events, right? So let's not deviate from the topic. So event log. So event log is basically, again, it helps you to visualize these events that I was talking about. So let's say I make a call here, component, there you go. So you see there are a bunch of events that happen. In this whole thing, the bunch of events happen. One of the event was key up. Okay, so this is what a browser event, or in fact it is a browser event, but it is sort of a component event. As you can see, it says CMP. That's the event. But we also have a app event here, which is interesting. C.search event. Now what is this? Where did it come from, right? So it happens when you actually click it. Let me actually clear you and show you. When you click it, this is when it happens. So here we go. So a search event has been fired whenever it is being published and the other components are actually listening for that. So how did it happen actually, the search event? So if we go here and look at, we create an event file, and that's how we define an event. So I've created an event file called search event, and that's why this says c.search event, because my file name is c.search event, and that's the application name. And as you can see, we indicate the type here. So in this case, I want application events because I want this event to be, loosely coupled and being held by different elements. So as you can see, we have this application event, and then we have this attribute called search string. What is this attribute? Okay, so attribute is a data that you want to actually send along with your event. So when I'm publishing, when I'm clicking, I also want, to actually fire this event and send some data along with that event, because the other component that is listening, can actually capture that event and also look at the data that actually went with that. Now this attribute is again the same attribute that I was discussing on the component markup. So this attribute you can actually declare to be a custom Apex class or anything, any data type. So whatever the Aura attribute definition is on the Lightning component guide, you can develop all those things and just publish it, publish it. So let's see actually how do we fire it. So if you go to the search event, you would see something called as register event, which has a name attribute and a type attribute. Now type is nothing but the name of the search event. Okay, so when I register an event, right, I tell this component that, okay, be prepared to actually dispatch events. Okay, so I said it, okay, so this component knows, that it has this event definition in it, and I can fire that. So again, remember that unless you fire that event, that event will not go, or, it will not get published. So let's see how do we publish it. So basically on the button click, here in my input text, I key up the search. The keying up the search actually goes here and calls this JavaScript function. Now as you can see, I have this $a.get, and E is for event, C is for the namespace, and this is the name of the event, which is the name of the file. And we also set the parameter to be whatever the value that is there in this input text. And then we use this app.fire. So this is the syntax actually. It takes some time to actually get used to it. But basically what we do is once we define a register event on our page, we say that, okay, get that registered event, and then we use set params to actually set the parameters or attributes basically. So whatever I showed you on the event file, right? So this attribute is what I'm setting. So if I go to this controller here, so what I'm doing here is I'm setting that. So again, component.find is an interesting expression. It's like document.get element by id.value, or in jQuery, you write something like, what do you write in jQuery? It's, you get the DOM ID, right? Like using hash notations and, whatever in jQuery world. Anyway, so you get the value. So this is what it is. So we say, okay, global search. So global search is an element in that component. Now let's look at where is this. So input text. So you see this aura ID. So aura ID is nothing but the ID of this element. So we say, okay, get me the value of that, right? So we say, okay, get me the value of that, and set that event and fire it. And that's what happened here. It just went and fired that event. So let's say I change it to lightning and then click on that. Let me actually clear it. Click on that key up event. You will see that parameter. So this is key up event that's going. This is the custom event. You'll see this parameter lightning. That's been going here, right? So now how do I listen to it, right? So listening is through the handler, right? So if I go to my YouTube card, I go to YouTube search and then I say handle and then I say which event I want to handle and what do I want to do after handling it, right? Maybe I want to extract that value and do some logic based on that. So that's what the event handler does is, so this is my search component. So this top section actually releases the event. This section actually listens for this event. So the YouTube search is what is listening for the event. So what I do is, okay, whenever it handles that event or whenever that event is detected, then do this action, which is again a JavaScript function called init short. So this actually calls the helper, and in the helper, we can extract the value out of that event parameter by doing event.getParam, right? So I just check for undefined in case, it's initially undefined. And then we say, okay, get me the parameter, and then we can set it, so that you can set it basically on a search string is basically attribute on the front end. So you can set an attribute, and then you can call an action again to actually based on that value go through the YouTube. So if you look at my controller here, it actually just makes a HTTP call out with that search string and parses the response, sends it back to this helper, and that helper actually sets it back with the data attribute that we saw on the page that's being declared, and then our code actually references that data. So let me pause for a sec here and see if everyone actually are in good pace for the next few things that I have here. Amit, can you hear me again?
Yes, Mohit, we are able to hear you properly.
All right. Yeah, I'm a little afraid that my internet connection will blow off. Although it's surprising because we have this gig here in the place where I live. Anyways, so let's actually move on. So Apex for Lightning is pretty simple. If you are already used to Apex, it's the same thing except for one thing. That is, you have to actually annotate every method with this attribute called @aura enabled. Okay, so every method will have, and every attribute that you wanted on the page needs to be annotated with aura enabled. That sounds weird, but that's how it is. So if you look at data parser, everything that I want on my page should be annotated with aura enabled, like every property. Okay. You can actually also, one thing I forgot to show you is whenever you call, you can actually see what is the data that's been coming here. So if you go to the inspector here, lighting inspector, so you have those actions and you can record the actions. Let's say I want to search for something. Click on that. So you see this parameters and you see this result. So this result will actually get you all the data that you are seeing from the backend. That's one way of looking into it, using the inspector. Also, I forgot about the event log. So what event log does is I showed you, right? Like this gives you an event, but you can actually trace through the feature. So if you click on toggle grid, I don't know if you are able to see here, but it actually tells you about every different event that happened and what is the chain of event that happened. You can actually go and, I hope you can see here. So yeah, so this basically tells you, okay, what are the chain of events that happened? So in my case, I pressed the key, then a custom event happened, and then this actually changed this markup, and then actually it initiated another action, right? So you can see the chain of events, so it becomes easier for debugging. So I would highly suggest you to actually use this extension or the Chrome extension. You can get it from the Chrome Play Store.
What is the name of that extension, Mohit?
Yeah, it's called Lighting Inspector in Chrome tool. So you can actually, let me see, Google. So it's just Google it, Lightning Chrome Inspector. Yeah. So you see here, Salesforce Lighting Inspector. So just click on that, and then you will go here called install. How do I install? So click on that. This takes you to an extension. So it only works with Chrome. So you basically say add it to, so it's saying add it to the Chrome. In your case, you say add to, and please go and rate it. Somebody has rated, I mean, I see there's 15 reviews with 3, definitely doesn't deserve a 3 here. I mean, to me, this works flawless and saves a lot of time when you're actually debugging things. So just go and rate it, make it 5, at least give a credit to the developer from Salesforce who has actually built it and made our lives simpler. So the demo, yeah, so the demo app I showed you, right? Some of the key takeaways from that. Publish, subscribe model. This is the change, right? I mean, this is something that we are not used to as Visualforce developers. We know only action functions, remoting, JavaScript remoting. As JavaScript developers, I think you are too familiar, but as Visualforce developers, we need some sort of understanding of how this publish subscribe model works, and this is where it is different. Interfaces. So this is what I did not talk about, and let me talk about this. So actually for this, I'll have to switch to Lightning Experience. So let's switch back to Lightning Experience. So Lightning Experience, right? So this is the new UI called Lightning Experience, and it's obviously better. It's getting better. It was not that usable, to be honest. Few years back, but now Salesforce is actually actively working on this and making it better and better and better. So all the best for them. Anyway, so this is the future, and this is how the UI interfaces will look like. Now, what I was talking about is, okay, what is, I mean, the real use of the components, right, for an admin. So for example, when I'm on an account page, let's say I want to actually add a Lightning component. So I can edit it using this edit page. So this actually takes you to a builder. This is a Lightning app builder, and this is what I was talking about. Like, okay, this builder. So now you will see bunch of standard components that Salesforce provide and bunch of our components, right? So this gives you. So let's say I want to add my YouTube search, right? That's my YouTube search. Okay, there we go. All right, it's blowing up because I might not have handled something, but let's see what happens actually. It might be blowing because, again, because if you look at my component, I was assuming that there is a search term, right? So let me save this and see if it blows up and tell you actually why it blows up and how can I fix it actually. So let's actually come back. So this is the use case actually of building a custom component. You can actually take it on the Lightning Experience. So where was it blowing actually? Honestly, I have not tested my code. I mean, I just write it just to show the use cases. So where is our component? Okay, looks like it silently fails. Let me actually go to that component and see what is that I want to actually help you understand. Come on up. Yeah, so this looks like a great feature that Salesforce added, that if a component actually fails, by default they just remove it. Let's add this and see. Yeah, so this actually got added up. And so one thing you will see in this release is, when you save, it asks you, okay, where exactly you want to activate. Is it org default? So you can assign as an org default so that, let's see now. Do things, one sec. So anyways, my idea here to you to explain was, the concept of design variables. So that's a very, very interesting concept of what we call it as like design variables. Okay, that doesn't seem like it's working. Okay, anyways, so I'll explain you what is a design. Maybe this layout is different and I need to add it to a different layout. I might have customized my layout. Let me see if I have another instance where I have a better example. So let's do this. Let's go to the Dreamforce talk that I had. Okay, let me switch to, so this is another instance actually where I might have, a good use case to show you what is our design variable. So basically our design variable, so look at this. So this is what I was talking about. So here it is displaying on my home page, and I have exposed this as a design variable. So what is a design variable is, so you declare something called as design here, okay? So once you declare something called as design, you map your design variables, for example, search string here to your attribute here, search string, right? So once you expose something as a design variable, it becomes available for you to actually configure it. So for example, when I edit this page, what you will see is as an admin, right? So think about you are a Salesforce administrator and not a developer, right? So as a developer, how do you actually want to drive metadata logic? So as you can see here, so you see here, I have the search term given for an admin. So let's say an admin wants to add something different here, right? So we'll just go and add it here called lighting components, right? Save this. So as you can see, the result got reflected. So an admin can actually drop multiple of these on the pages with different set of values here, just because we have exposed that as a design attribute. And he can use it in multiple pages with different context. And our business logic can be written or driven based on these settings that that you provide. All right, so that hopefully that actually makes you understand what is our design variable. It's basically you are exposing some variables for your admins, and your admins actually have the ability to configure your app, and based on that you write your component logic, which seems very powerful, right? For app exchange apps. So that's what I meant by using design attributes for admins. Let's see how we are doing on time. Okay. Yeah, so I have some references actually. Go through these references, and all the code that I have I actually shared here. In fact, you can go to my repo. I have written bundles and bundles of this, Lightning components on different for different webinars and other things. So you can actually look at, I wrote something called a sales leaderboard last year, which I was demoing of how to use a model window with Lightning components. So you can actually look at all those things, and I have some clear examples here, of how to write these bundles and components. All right, with that said, I will actually open up the floor for questions, and we'll take some questions. Amit, if you are still with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mohit, for the presentation and all the information. So, guys, do you have any question for Mohit?
Let's actually go one by one, and pick it.
Amit, this Sudipto here. So should I ask the question here or should I write in the chat window?
Yeah,
You
go
can
ahead.
ask. Yeah.
Hey Mohit, thanks for the presentation, Mohit. I need one quick answer here. You showed that Apex page, the controller page, at the very top level. You showed like with sharing. So is it really matters like with sharing or without sharing when we enable the Aura and when we enable that Aura enable tag?
Yeah. So here's the thing. With sharing is obviously matters. What it does is it actually only brings you the data that you should be seeing it. You know, in for a lot of use cases, it still works. There are caveats. For example, if you're using you know, for community builder and public site, then you know, with sharing does not matter. But it actually matters, and it, you know. But one thing you should note is, you know, in the Apex controller, wherever you have this queries and field level security and other things, those are actually not respected yet. You know, by field level security.
Correct.
So let's say your admin said something and your field level security is something set. So your Lightning component actually doesn't respect that because that's not baked into the platform. Now, if you are actually following it, there is something called as data service. Okay, so this is going to change a lot of things for us. It's in the beta actually. So data. So this is data service. So this. So once this gets launched, actually this will allow you to actually not write Apex controllers and use, you know, standard controller equivalent. So you know this Visualforce standard controllers, right? Where you could directly reference it. So that's what this will do. You know, you will just indicate the record ID and the fields you want, and you know, without any code and just writing some markup, you will be able to actually you know, get the data without controller. So as you can see, I'm pretty sure this will not have any controller attached to it. As you can see, it doesn't have any controller attached to it. So this is believed to actually respect all the CRUD, FLS, and everything baked into it. You know, um, you don't have to worry about your CRUD access or FLS access. But with sharing, definitely, I mean, with sharing actually is respected. So if you don't have access to a record, with sharing actually prevents you from, you know, from accessing that. I mean, if you write a query like select ID from account, and if you don't have access to that account, and if you have a class with sharing, then it only brings you that account which you have visibility to.
I got it. It seems like the standard Apex.
Yeah.
Okay. And one more question, with you say you showed something called design component, right?
Design attribute. Yeah.
A design attribute, right?
Yeah,
So,
there you
and
go.
you showed, yeah, and you showed like we can put like Lightning component or whatever value like admin can put. So is there an opportunity like when that component takes value from the page where it is getting, you know, embedded?
Oh yeah. So yeah. So you are talking about, okay, what is like, for example, record ID, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we have this interface called Force has record ID. So let me actually show you through the guide. I mean, some of the use cases here are pretty standard. So let's actually look at the has record ID, right? So yeah. So if you look at this, right, Force has record ID. So what happens here is you declare, first of all, you declare, you know, that it is available for homepage. And then you also implement this interface called Force has record ID. So in fact, when you create a component here, like for example, when you start here and say, you know, this new Lightning component, it asks you, okay, you know, you want for record page. So when you click for record page, let's say when I click for record page here, so what it does, it gives you a has record ID interface and available for home. So when you add that, you need to add one more attribute, which is, where was that? So let's actually go to the, let me close a bunch of windows here. It's actually irritating, you know. So one sec. So yeah, so when you look at this, so you have this inbuilt ID, okay? So this actually gives you the ID. So let's do this actually. So let's do some live coding so that, you know, so we'll understand some of the things. So let's say I put a div, and let's say I just say, okay, I want this one, okay, right? Say current account ID, right?
Right.
So as you can see, so this is, so let's actually go, and so this is, what did I call? Okay, that's interesting. I called it something. My account page is messed up, I guess, you know. I would have played like anything. Let's actually go to the contact page and try and drag and drop this component now. Go to this edit page. Where is that component now? So as you can see, you see this component. It's actually, sorry, that's me drag and drop. Sorry, I'm not an admin. You can clearly make it out. Right, so I said account ID. So activate. Let's say assign as app default, assign as org default, system default, save it, save this, come back. So let's come back to the contact. Where is our contact? Right now, where is
At the
where?
top current account ID.
Oh yeah, so this should actually be populated. Why is it not populating? Oh yeah, I know why is it not. One sec, I'll fix it. So this is very important, I guess. This is how it reads. Yeah, if I keep forgetting, like Visualforce is like just a markup, but it is not. So it's still not populating. Current contact ID. Let's see this. So let me actually, so live coding, right? So that's how it is.
Is it V or C?
It's, let me actually look at this one second. I think it's V. Let's see, it's V actually. You say V dot and then that, you know, V is for the markup, C is for any actions that we do it. So it should ideally be working here. Why is it not working here? One thing you will notice it heavily caches it. You know, during when you try working on this, you will see that it actually caches it. So that might be one of the reasons why it's not working. I may have to clear my cache, or it might have been because of the cache. There you go. You see here? Right. So this is the contact ID. So yeah, it caches. I mean, sometimes it caches, and that's why I recommend. What I do is I usually create a boilerplate app like this, and you know, so this does not cache it. Okay, when you create a boiler app like this, like our application, and start building, and then when you are completely ready, right? You know, then you can actually start, you know, replacing and then start playing around with the builder and see how it goes.
I got it. So basically I need to pass that ID to the init function, and that from there I need to get that, you know, the value which I want and put it in that what is called component.
Yeah, so basically if you spin a controller, right? So this attribute is just accessible via the get now. So for example, if you do a component dot get, and then this is so then you say, I think it's called c dot. Just let me hold on for a sec here. Component dot get, it's also v dot. So then we say v dot and then the attribute name. So this is how you get it from the attribute. So just say get it. So this is the thing. It's console.log it here. Say, you know, contact ID. This contact ID, and then just say this. There you go. Okay, so now let's actually refresh and see our console log. So, oh, okay, one more thing is I need to call that function. So unless you call the function, so basically, I mean, you can just copy paste this. So this is how I work, copy paste everything. So where is that YouTube search coming? Yeah, so basically you will need this init handler because that's the first function that gets called. And you can call the function. In this case, our function name is my action. You call that function here, save it. It's just gonna cache it a couple of times. I don't want to actually work with that like that, but let's actually just refresh it. Or you can download also. So the way my friends actually work is they download this extension, Chrome extension to clear your cache. So that is also a nice way to you know, clear your
So
cache.
we have there is an extension, clear your cache.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Oh no, not this one. So it's still caching. I'm pretty sure it's still caching. So what did it say? I said init action. Action was here at my action. My action was here called. It's still cached actually. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
It takes
Oh, I got
real,
it now. Yeah.
yeah, it takes real bunch of time, to actually update the code and show the value. Come on in, come on in. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got it. Yep.
Yeah, it takes so you see here I updated to also show me this. It did not. Do you see that?
Yes. 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 So
So it
probably
is
the
still,
next time.
yeah, it is still cached, which sort of actually is the caveat for that. And I think Amit, are you recording this video?
Yes, yes, Mohit.
All right. Can you just ping me that video and we want to post it on in front of Salesforce team to tell them exactly what is our problem as developers, that it takes forever to actually clear your caches and do it this way. So
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that way we'll have visibility that we are doing some work.
Yeah.
I was just kidding.
No, perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Mohit. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? We have time till like 10 more minutes, 9 more minutes.
So anybody have any question? I think Shojit have some question. So I'm just unmuting him. So if so you can ask your question. I see a couple of question you added on chat. So you can go ahead and ask.
Or Amit, if Sujit is not available, you can just repeat that question and I can answer it.
Okay. So it's on a chat window basically. Let me read. He posted multiple question there. Are you able to see the chat window?
Yeah, I'm able to. So what was the question? What was the user? Suvajit?
Sujit, right?
Suvajit, yeah. So how to use Aura ID in dynamic way? So if I have an Aura iteration inside, I need to have dynamic Aura IDs to every and then use it to find. Oh, that's a great question, Suvajit. Actually, that is a bug currently in Lightning. That when you actually do a iteration, and you will not be able to actually inject dynamically. So I mean the workaround for that is actually there on the Stack Exchange. In fact, okay, so let's search like this: dynamic Aura ID. Let's see. Aura ID of dynamic. So what is this? Is it possible to dynamically set the ID of this, right, in Aura iteration? That is not the correct answer. This is the correct answer, right? So this is your problem, right? Um, so what you do basically, so the way I have worked out in the past for this is actually, so you split them into multiple components. So there are two ways to solve this problem. So one is, one is actually to, further split it, split everything inside Aura iteration into its own component. And then based on that, you can actually use it. That's easiest. The other way is to completely dynamically write the markup. So in jQuery, you remember we used to write this dynamic markups, so in Lightning component, we have this, where is this? So in Lightning component, we have this create component, okay? So create components is basically the dynamically create component. So when you use this, right, when you use this, you have ability to actually set your Aura ID inside your JavaScript instead of markup, and the markup just renders. So that way, that is one of the ways, it's a little bit of more work to actually, push all your markup into a JavaScript function, but then that's how it works. I mean, you will be able to get around. I am hoping, I mean, again, safe harbor, I mean, do not take anything that I speak for like, making purchasing decisions, but I'm pretty sure this release somewhere is having some solution around that, like fixing it from the root, and we should be able to dynamically do it. That makes sense? Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Let me see the chat and, we have 6 more minutes. Most of the times we need a page which renders as PDF. How to do that for Lightning? Uh, Actually, that's a great question. So basically from Lightning, you can launch a Visualforce page, okay? So there's nothing stopping you from using Visualforce page. So maybe you want to provide a link where somebody actually clicks and then you take the ID or, you know, the context to a Visualforce page, and that page actually renders as PDF. So that should take care of it. That's one way of doing it. If the app has multiple pages, how to use the layout themes? Wish, are you on the call? This question not so clear. So if you're on the call, you
Can,
know.
I just unmuted the Wish. Wish, can you go ahead and clarify your question?
Yeah. Hi, Mohit. I'm just wondering if an application app has multiple pages. So generally, when we're building websites, we have a layout theme. So for example, we have the same schema or same look and feel for some particular pages, we can use the layouts. So
Yeah,
similarly, if
yeah,
my
yeah.
app,
Great question. Great question. So I'll tell you. So this application, right? Salesforce application is very, very huge, sort of a thing. But Salesforce has its communities, right? So have you worked with Salesforce communities at all? Salesforce
Uh,
communities is basically meant to build websites and things like that, you know, sort of user friendly or, you know, user facing applications. So Salesforce has this communities. Now communities has this concept of theming, you know, where you can actually build a common theme. In fact, you should check it out, Lightning Bolt. Maybe you can go to our blog, Code Science blog, you'll find one article from me. So that shows you actually how you can actually build a theme and then, you know, use that theme to override you know, a lot of things. But for Salesforce application, I don't think you know, that we have that ability currently. You know, it's available for customer facing apps like communities. If you are familiar with communities, you have it. So let me show you what is a community. How many of you work with communities? Like communities is one of like my best features sort of a thing. Again, it uses like bunch of Lightning components. So as you can see, we have this manage and then we have this builder. So if I go to the builder, the builder for community is like this, where you can actually build customer facing applications, you know, using this Lightning component technology. In fact, there are a bunch of communities out there, you know, that are built using that. So this is like a standard theme, but you can actually customize it here. So in your settings, in your developer, they give you an option actually, sorry, it's in advanced. So yeah, so not advanced theme. So they give you this option where you can, you know, add a new theme. So all these are like theme, and theme is basically a Lightning component again. So let me see. Come on. Okay, the website is. So where do I search them? Okay. Okay, so lightning board. There you go. So basically, yeah, so customized lightning theming with this. So you can read this article. I mean, this is something that I wrote it. So in this, you have this theming layout. So you see, you create your own theming layouts where you decide your own sort of, you know, structure, you know, rather than Salesforce structure like you decide. And then, so what you do is, so basically in this theme, so you override the theme basically. You can change the classes and things like that. I don't know if I'm able to show you one of the client instances, um, but yeah, but you know, because of NDA and all those things. But yeah, I mean, with the theming layout, go explore theming layouts. They are pretty cool. Like they are lighting interfaces that you can actually go and do some stuff on. Any more
Yep,
questions, please?
that helps. Thank you.
No worries. How to handle exception and errors while creating Aura components, and please could you share the tutorial session video? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. So on the exception part, right, that's a great topic. Actually, I would recommend you to go to this Median blog post from me. So let's actually go to this Median. So median blog post transitioning from Visualforce to Lightning Developer. Yeah, so just go read this blog. So this blog actually shows you how to handle exceptions. So there is a pattern I've created. So this pattern is very useful where you just try and catch everything with aura handled exceptions. Also, if you have access to my SE Dreaming session that I did for Atlanta user group, so that session actually covered some of the things like how do you actually show our toaster. So we basically have this toast. That's what we show. And I'm pretty sure you will be able to find a blog post from somebody else on the community on this topic. But I just shared this blog post as well. So this has a lot of other things. How to create recurring task in Lightning. Recurring task, same thing. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, I think the task object has this, task component has this recurring task out of box. But if it doesn't, it is very simple. There might be Apex methods to create all these things. Let me skim through. Who else has the question? Yes, so adding to, if I create a component to create or multiple records in a single, that doesn't work, does not bind with S-object arrays. Can you come up with a demo on this use case? So Tejas, actually you can put your question on Stack Exchange and I will see if I find time to actually answer that. It's definitely possible to actually bind. So there is a question on how does locker service impact the type of JS we write for Lightning if we use window.open in Vivo. So Suwajit had some question on locker services. So locker services itself is a big topic. What it does basically is it stops you from accessing one component. So if you are on a one component, you cannot access the DOM of another component, unless and until it is a parent-child relationship. So you cannot go outside your component and access that. So for locker service, I would recommend you to go through the official documentation, go through this documentation and see what API viewer it has, and it has what type of DOM elements that are supported, what is not supported. All these things are for security reasons actually. You don't want to be actually, and also to support coexistence of App Exchange applications, right? For example, let's say you have a banking application, right? From two different vendors. Let's assume vendor A, vendor B. So vendor A may steal the data of vendor B, right? You don't want to do that. So with JavaScript, you have all this because you can identify the DOM pattern and then you can. So what Locker Services does is it does not allow your component to actually hack through or go outside your boundaries, to access data and things like that. So you cannot hack it basically. It's a security layer on top of the Lightning component. But as long as you follow the frameworks tags, you should not have any issues. Anybody else? So we have, all right, let's call it. I mean, let's bring all the questions on Stack Exchange and other forums, on developer forums. I'm sure Amit is there. Amit, just ping me if you find any Lightning questions and you need some attention from me.
Yeah.
I might have some time and do it.
I will
With
do
that,
one thing, and I will request everyone go ahead and post your question on developer forum on Stack Exchange. Mohit is available on Stack Exchange. I'm available on developer forum. So if I will get some time, we will try to post the answer.
Yeah, and thanks for everything here. I mean, I'm sorry that my internet got disconnected for a while, which sort of was like maybe sort of like it happens in one time in like 1,000 sessions that I do. So I was a little bit unlucky today that it happened, but nonetheless it came back and we finished the session. So thanks for that. Amit, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mohit, and thank you so much for all your time and the useful session today. And thank you everyone for joining this session. So couple of questions I see people are asking for the recording session. Yeah, so I try to record the session and soon I will try to post this video somewhere and I will share the link of this video on the meetup and couple of links with whatever like Mohisho. I will try to post I will try to collect all this information and will try to post on the meetup page. So thank you, Mohit. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining this session.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you, everyone.
Mohit.